This is Channel 5 News.
I'm starting, go. Hi. Want to sit down?
Alright, so
Is it on?
American entertainment, me and George in the 30s and 40s. Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, we have the cinema. In the 1930s and the 1940s, well, the 1930s and the 40s were considered to be the golden age of Hollywood. There were like a lot of types of movies created, but like the most popular were the like gangster movies, the classic stories, and the monster movies. Also, the cartoons were like very popular in this
Yeah.
Sure. Like Walt Disney's first animated film, whatever, was created in 1937. It was Snow White and Seven. Sure. Thank you. And then Bugs Bunny was 1940, Tweety 1947. And then the first comic book, like the first Superman comic book, was in 1938.
Moving on to the newspaper and magazines. At the time, education had growth, so more people could read. Therefore, more newspaper was printed, more magazines were printed. I quoted from a website: advancing printing techniques, expanded communication, improved news gathering efficiency, and increased advertising revenues turned huge profits for the newspaper organizations that quickly became big corporate businesses. So just before the 30s, the newspaper had great growth, but then, as we all know, in the 30s came the Great Depression, and therefore the budget got smaller because companies could not pay for their advertisements on the newspaper. Therefore, newspaper industry got smaller, but at the same time, people still read newspaper because at the time there was no TVs. There were no TVs, so there was no way they could know news, or it was simply a source of entertainment. And at the time, because of the, FDR had the New Deal, because of the Great Depression, so people did not know what the New Deal was. So it was their only source of knowing what the New Deal was through newspaper. So on the sides, there were people who just working on the New Deal. On every edition, there was a paragraph or a column about the New Deal, explaining to people what it was. And then we can see here how people got their knowledge at the time, where did they get their information from. So it was mainly newspaper for the wealthy and middle class. Actually, for everyone, it was mainly the newspaper. As you can see, 70% for wealthy, 70% for middle class, 63% for middle class, upper and lower. For the poor, it was 58, Negroes 51. It was a lot, 63 in total. So yeah, newspaper was a huge deal at the time.
Okay, and then we have sports. So the four most popular sports were baseball, basketball, boxing, and football. In the boxing category, Chloe, don't make fun of me, please. So yeah, it was the second most popular sport at this time, and the most popular player, like boxing player, whatever. His name was Joe Louis, and Angelo mentioned him in her book, because I don't know if you guys remember, read the book or whatever. Like she mentioned him. They were all like listening to the game and like chapter 19. Thank you. And then he was the world heavyweight champion, and he held the record for the longest time in history. And then we have board games. Like people used to play board games at this time for entertaining themselves. So we have this Scrabble. Is it Scrabble? So yeah, it was in 1938, and then Monopoly was created in 1933.
Interested?
And then music. So in the 1930s, big bands, like there were bands, like a lot of bands, and then in the 1940s, the singers started like to leave the bands and create, like start their own career like alone. And then the jazz was the most popular type of music at this time. And we have Louis Armstrong, which was like a very popular singer and trumpet player at that time.
Finally, you have radio. So, as George mentioned, lots of bands. I just start with the last point. What? No, because it's gonna make us up. So during the Great Depression, FDR used also to tell people about the progress of the New Deal and all this politics through the radio. And there were chats called the fireside chats, where there were people, politicians, discussing the New Deal and what people could do, what people had to wait for. So they could only know it through newspaper and the radio at the time. But after, as the TV started getting popular, it was around the late 40s. Radio started to lose its popularity, and it was only limited to news and music. So at the time, there were shows, games, etc. I mean, they still exist, but no one would watch a game or listen to a game on the radio when you could watch it on TV. Same as shows. No movies, obviously. So it became less popular, and then it was it was like a TV, but back then it was a radio. So you can see all of the family would just gather around the radio and listen to it. And then those who didn't have any radios at home, they went to the stores, like we know about the boxer who had the game. So people listened to the game at the time, just like in stamps. And finally, some bands, again, who were popular at the time, used to perform in concerts and theaters. Just like the Pennsylvanians, they had a concert called New Yorkers, and it was really popular. But after, well, obviously not everyone could go to concerts, so they would just listen to whatever music came out on the radio. So, do we ever see any kind of those? Okay.
Well, as you mentioned, during to know about the boxing match or whatever, they had to listen to the radio and stuff, and that's how they kind of had to inform themselves on how the match was going. So that's one of the entertainments, I guess.
When Bailey goes to see a movie where it stars as if it's Mother Dear or the main actress.
Yeah. Well, obviously we can see only, as you guys mentioned, a few kinds of entertainment, only two of what we have,
Many times Bailey would use his allowance when he would get home, and he would have already used it to buy comic books.
Well, as we can see, we didn't see many kinds of entertainment, and my second question is why? Why did we not see all kinds of entertainment?
Just this segregation and things like that obviously didn't help, but they weren't very rich, so they simply
I don't think that was the main focus of the book of showing entertainment. I think it was just a part of it that would just make us understand some aspects of how they used to live life. And plus Maya and Bailey at the time when they were in stamps and stuff, the entertainment of them as kids is just playing with friends, and we see that Mama would make them work in the store most days and stuff. So I don't think it was that much entertainment. Plus Maya loved she loved to read, right? So that was her entertainment.
The only time they get toys or board games was when their parents sent them presents for Christmas. She got a teacup set, and she didn't know what to do with it. So I think as a kid she wasn't her entertainment wasn't what other people did, because I think most of these kinds of entertainment were for the white anyways because of the segregation. so she probably wasn't as exposed to it.
Like every time she shows me the thing like the boxing match, like with the theater, it's always there's a reason why she talks about this. It's like to show something about racism or something. That's why like kids, it's not the main focus, but it's not the main focus. But every time she talks about something that it's because there's something that it's not just personal.
Yes, Fawad, I just want to add on to that question because it's a good observation that you made. Every single time entertainment arises, you think that there's a reason. So my question is, what is the point of all this entertainment?
I'm answering that. I wasn't ready for that.
Okay, I'm not expect, but I'm just encouraging you to start thinking about it. Like, what is the point of all of these allusions to various forms of entertainment? Think about that. Okay, Alex.
Okay. Well, we actually, I don't know, I heard people say we don't see entertainment in the book, but like, there was the part where Bailey went to watch the movie.
Who said that?
Where you said that, alright, but anyway, I don't think they come up, I don't think they come up as often because it's not because they were like segregated, but because they were poor and most of those entertainment, wouldn't you say that?
You said
Listen, Alex.
I just put two things together.
I don't know the movies about like these sports people. It's representation for the black community to see that like, even like when the white guys started talking at graduation, it's like they can only amount to that. So if they're gonna hold that as something that they can only amount to, we'll never have someone that they can look up to. Like the importance she gave what's his face, saying that if he beats them, we're no longer slaves, we're no longer monkeys or whatever. It shows how much faith they put in their own like, idols.
But then again, they never get any sports. Bailey and Maya.
But to have someone that's not like among all these white presidents, all these white people doing great stuff, even white like superintendent or whatever, just have one black person doing something good enough for them.
Laura.
Are we talking about like specific events?
Yes.
There was the boxing match between Joe Louis and the other white person. I thought it was just to show how black people would like fight racism.
Okay. Okay.
I just have another comment on the question. Well, I feel like considering they were pretty poor, there is a lot of entertainment because they have the radio and they have movies and Maya did the dancing.
Yes.
That was a pretty big pastime back then.
Yes. We kind of missed that whole dance part. Right. Like there's a huge modern revolution of dance at this point.
It's next
What?
I feel like for the part when I go to the theater, it's not like he shows racism how like someone like the about stories and the lives, but it's also I think she wants to talk about like the Black Journey and shows like how much it was affected by his mom, because in the book she talks about him a lot in the beginning and after you see like the fades away and stuff, that time she just used that situation to talk about his family and talk about something that was important for we not as important for her, but talk about
Selena, did you have
It was the same thing.
Yeah.
Can you say why do not care about the entertainment or more of the...
No.
There's
No.
a whole thing talking about.
Like as I said, dance. You can't tell me that she didn't care about entertainment when she like throws herself into dance.
Was it
Okay.
entertainment or was it just somewhere where she could find herself?
What's it?
And then like literature should be classified as entertainment. What does Maya do when she's bored and she doesn't? She reads, right?
And that's
So
what gets her to
yeah.
you.
Think about it for you guys, okay? When you're bored, okay? You have too much IB homework to do,
Yeah.
okay?
We always do
What do
it.
you do?
We don't do it.
Play volleyball.
You don't do it, and you go and
Watch
Play
Netflix.
volleyball.
yes. What does entertainment do for you then?
You make me a better body.
It relieves your stress. It is a form of escape. It is a form of escape. So think about this,
Music
okay?
is my escape.
When really everybody who is trapped in their situation, they turn to some form of entertainment.
So
So when Mr. Freeman, because remember how they describe him, he's like this really big, tired, like, he seems like, I don't know, I think I kind of remember him as this sloth who kind of just sits there, right? What does he do? He sits there and he listens to the radio. He sits there and he listens to the Lone Rangers, Crime Busters, and the Shadow, all day. Okay? When the people in Stamps are tired and after their days of work in the cotton fields, they go and they sit and listen to the radio and watch the story.
Yeah.
Okay? It is their form of entertainment. When Bailey misses his mother and has no one to reach out to, he goes to the movies and he like infatuates and he kind of repeatedly watches these films of this, what is it, Carl King? Kay?
Elaine
Francis, right? He kind of uses her as a replacement figure for his mom. These are all forms of escape for these people. Okay? It's this idea that in their perhaps destitute, in their perhaps desperate surroundings, environment, entertainment serves as these forms of escape. Just like you and I, you know, they show, and it's very interesting. They show, statistics show that when there is a problem in the economy, such as the real estate bubble kind of in the early 2000s or whatever, what happened? People started going to watch movies a lot more than when suddenly the economy is high. Because why? Because life sucks. We're not making as much. We're losing our jobs. But you know what? We can afford to go. We can try and go out to see something to escape the hardships that we're experiencing.
Actually, at the time, in the 30s, 90 million people went to watch a movie per week, which is triple the amount of people that went during the 20s.
Helen Chris.
Yes, right after, really, during the Great Depression, think about it. And so, the Hollywood industry thrives during economic downfalls. Okay? And so that they always have to kind of tread lightly because they're doing so well. Okay, while the rest of the world is.
Are we in an economic downfall?
Not a downfall, but I would say that it's not, yeah, it's not a wave, we're kind of like in a trough.
A trough. What's a trough?
A trough, like the lower part of the, you know,
Of an up cycle or?
like, you know, waves.
Oh,
Okay.
trough. Oh, yeah. We did that.
Okay.
Crest and trough.
Good.
That's physics.
Thank you. Oh, David.
I just want to say entertainment, if you want to only focus on entertainment, you could say that that's what helped Maya become on you also. And because she's, by reading books, by understanding the true beauty of spoken word and of literature, that's what made her so talking. So if you really focus on literature as a point of entertainment, you see that that's what made Maya who she is today. That's who made her today. And writing of literature because it was a form of entertainment that would make her escape.
Yeah.
And she realized it was.
Just as mentioned, you're right. It's these forms of expression, right? Remember when Maya has trouble kind of like grappling with her body and she doesn't really necessarily accept it or love it, right? All of her life. She reads that book, but she also kind of starts to like her body a little bit more when she starts dancing. Right? She realizes that she can move it and she can control it and that it's hers, right? And that is something that you don't, as I said, it's a great example of that expression, okay, that art allows people to have. The water's out of hand. Questions? Thank you.
Yes, good. Yes, good. Where should go from? Where should